Hey, we are live. Thank you for tuning in to the Confidence After Dark podcast. The main mission and focus of this podcast is to help couples learn to understand one another, listen to one another, and create a healthy environment for their family using the power of femininity, intimacy, and vulnerability. If all you do is fight and argue, say mean and hurtful things to each other, and you know you want this relationship to work, you just don't know how after everything that you've been through, then I invite you to subscribe to this podcast as I will be providing tips on how to reignite the passion in your relationship and to reconnect with your partner. Because when you thrive, everyone else around you thrives. In today's episode, I am interviewing a special guest. Her name is Daisy Hillbrands, and she is a transformational coach of Hillbrands Coaching that provides couples coaching in the areas of communication and being able to clear out misunderstanding amongst couples so that they can have a more fulfilling, loving, and thriving relationship. And so I invited her on to talk about that more, especially as communication could be a huge part of a relationship, especially miscommunication and being able to speak each other's language. And so I would like, Ms. Hillbrand, for you to introduce yourself, tell us about yourself and your business.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. I'm thrilled to be here, and yeah, everything you said in your introduction is just what I like to talk about. So, as you said, I am a transformative coach. I work both with individuals and couples. What I do with couples is working on their communication and also working on letting them find each other again, because there was a reason why they became a couple. And during the years or kids or ups and downs, you can lose the sight of what made you a couple. So also just giving them exercises to find each other again. Um, like I normally say when I have new couples into couples coaching, that all the work is between the sessions. You are going to work together to be a couple again.
Man, I like that. So the work is in between the sessions because you can only do so much in one session.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Mm,
also what do you say? Having tools, for example, to communicate better. That is fine, but that is a what do you say? A practice approach you have within the session. But if you don't bring it into your everyday life, it doesn't know how much you know about communication if you're not living it. So it is really getting some tools, try them out, see what worked for you as a couple, because all couples are also different. So it's not like there is a universal key that would work for everybody.
exactly. So making sure that you are using the tools that you give in the session
Mm.
to make sure it works for you and to practice it in real life, because if you're
Mm.
not practicing it practicing it in real life, then how are you going to see the transformation, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things I often, when I get a new couple in, I start with is having them to take the test of what is their love language.
Mm.
It is an old test. You can find it online. There is very good test there. There is 5 different love language, and it's both to get the communication going on how do we show love and how do we want people to show they love us, and it's also to get a deeper understanding of each other's needs. Because sometimes if your needs are very different, for example, one of the love language is giving gifts,
Mhm.
and for me myself, that one is the lowest score on my 5 love language. So if I would have a partner who love language was to give gifts, I would need to show that I do appreciate he thinking of me, buying the right gift for me, even though it's not my love language. So it can really open up to talk about how do you show love, and also to try out each other's love language.
Mm. So when you do have different love languages, how do you still show a appreciation for the other person's love language, like you said, like if their love language is giving gifts, but that's, not what's most important to you, do you then get your partner to switch how they show love, or what can you do?
No, you can't get someone to switch how they show love. That is how we do it. So it is really to learn to see how they show their love. And for example, a good example is one of the other language is doing favor or act of service, it's called. So it's
Mhm,
doing things for each other. That is also not very high on my list. But for example, I realized after I start diving into these love language that it is very high on my mother's list of love language. So instead of me, when I came home, being irritated of her, wanted to drive me to the supermarket, wanted to arrange things for me, like, come on, I'm a grown woman, I can manage myself. Then
yeah.
I accepted that that is her way of showing love and just
Mhm,
said thank you and received it without seeing that she did it because she didn't think I was a grown woman, because that was not her point of view at all. So
mhm,
it is when you do understand another person's love language, and even though it is perhaps not yours, you can understand the thoughts behind and
mhm.
see what is lying behind, and then learn to appreciate it.
Okay. So that's how you get to feel fulfilled, even if someone's not exactly speaking your love language. It just takes understanding and appreciation of what someone else brings to the table.
Yes,
So still
exactly.
being able to appreciate that and um be like, well, I may not be getting it in this way, but I'm getting it in this way, and only this person can, provide it for me.
Yes, and also if I do have a couple where the love, you're not only one love language, you are more than one, but you have some that is more dominant than other. So if I
Mm,
do have a couple where they are very different, then I quite often say, how would it be if you took one day and go by the one person's love language the whole day?
mm,
So you take a whole day to show your partner your love in the way you want to show your love, and the other one is just there to enjoy and observe how that person show their love.
mm, I like that. I like
Mm,
that. So, how do you how do you how do you get couples to communicate in a way that gets them heard? Because I
mm,
think that can be difficult for couples to communicate in a way that they are actually heard and understood, like you were saying.
mm.
And a lot of the times we may not have a problem expressing ourselves or expressing how we feel, but it's still like this disconnect, and it's not being received the way that we wanted it to from the other person. So how do you get couples to communicate in a way that they are heard?
Yeah, that can be very difficult sometimes, and also especially with a couple, because we do tend to fall into certain patterns in our relationships, and they
Mm,
can be very hard to break those patterns. So normally, in fact, I will start with the patterns of saying, what are the patterns you are falling into when you are not communicating good with each other, to see why do you fall into these patterns, and how can you break them. Because yeah, it can be very hard if you're not aware of what patterns you fall into. If you fall into being the victim, for example, nobody likes to be the victim, but it is a role we sometimes fall into. um, and it can be very hard for yourself to see that, hey, I do fall into this role of the victim. So it is going over, for example, the last time they had a discussion or an argument of saying, okay, how did this discussion or argument proceed? Um, what did you see in each other? What did you feel? Um, so it's very much the focus on taking the clearest episode. Sorry, I have to cough. um, taking the clearest episode in their memories and work from that one. So, and also not going to the past, because we can be very good in collecting bad memories. So taking the last episode, keep the focus on that one and say, okay, what went wrong? What did you feel went wrong? And from both partners, because it is something that went wrong for both of them. They have a feeling, both of them, one perhaps have they can both sit with the feeling they were not heard. And they can also both sit with the feeling, oh, I was listening to you. Uh, so that one of looking at how is the dynamic when you do discuss or argue, and can you see what a little bit what level up the discussion, because often we have some triggers who will make us even more angry or even more stubborn or even more hurt in a discussion.
Mm.
uh,
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I gotta plug in my charger. Sorry about that.
mm,
Give me
no,
one
not a
second.
problem.
So basically what you were saying was when there is a miscommunication, it's basically taking the time to like pause and be more in the present moment and how you feel, and then
Mm.
communicate to each other how you're feeling in the present moment.
Yes, exactly.
Mm,
And also one of the exercises I like very much is, say you have to mirror, make a mirror exercise. It is also a tool you use in coaching to get a client to reflect about a subject, but you can also use it couples between. So one couple speak out what is on the mind, and the other couple speak out saying, what I'm hearing you saying is,
mm, mhm,
and explain what it is they are hearing, because that is a very good way to get misunderstanding out of the way, because then the other one has the option to say, oh, that was not what I meant. I'm sorry you heard it like that. That was not my meaning. What I really meant was. So it gives an opportunity of really hearing what each other are saying, and also for the one who is speaking to hear how it is received from the other partner.
It's a really good exercise. I can definitely see how that would work so that you are able to, like you said, hear not only yourself, but how the other person is receiving what you're saying. So then you could be like, oh, well, I needed to say that a different way, or maybe I should work on my delivery or, my tone, or making sure that I'm using the right words to
Mm-hmm.
express how I really feel and things like that. And so how can like how can the couple be able to get how they feel clearly communicated across? Like if they are having a tough time getting to the root of how they feel, and then especially like you said, if they're bringing up a lot of the past, how can they get in touch with what is really causing them to feel this way, if it's really what was said now, or is it something that was triggered from the past?
Yeah. One of the things is also a little bit of an another exercise I also like very much. So what you say, explain it like you want to fly on the wall.
Mm.
because the fly on the wall can't see the past.
Mm-hmm.
The fly on the wall don't know what the past is. It was there. It was not born when the past was there. It is here in the moment. So every time you catch yourself in saying something that comes from the past, then remember, hey, the fly doesn't know that. So that is not relevant for the present moment. And I do acknowledge this can be a very, very hard exercise to do. It
Yeah.
is one I often do when I do have the couples in for a session, because it's
Mm.
easier for me from someone as coming from the outside to see
Yeah.
when they jump to the past.
Yeah. From the outside looking in
Yeah,
and give that objective view.
yes, exactly. So
Mm.
it can be very hard, but it can be a good reflection to after an argument to look for yourself and say, okay, how much of this in this argument was the present moment and how much was the past? I think we all know that situation where the last week has been stressful. We have missed a deadline, perhaps we have been sick, or we have a quarrel with someone at work. And then we come home and our partner has left the butter on the kitchen table and we explode.
Yeah. Yes.
And that has nothing to do with the butter on the kitchen table. That has
Right.
something to do with everything else who came to the point where we exploded.
Yeah. The build
And
up.
that is, yeah. And that is also sometimes what you could say the challenge in a relationship, as we do feel safe around each other. It is also an environment where we will allow ourselves to explode, as we wouldn't do over a coworker or
Mm.
someone in the shop or anybody else who has triggered us during the week. So sometimes the partner gets all the shit, so to speak.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like you said, it's like the closest people to us, we just let it all loose. We really
Mm,
show who we are and how we feel, the
mm,
people that we spend the most time with. And like you said, sometimes it could be a bad thing because everything else that's built up, the your partner say
mm,
one thing and it just makes you snap like, oh. But then you have to be like, okay, it's not really you. It's
mm.
it's me and it's everything else that's been happening around me. So then is it important to therefore like talk about your outside stresses and what you're going through instead of like um letting it build up?
I would say definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a good thing if you can do with your partner. But that one of things building up inside of you, you need to get it out. If it's with your partner, if it's with a close friend, if it's with your mom or siblings, find someone where you can let it out, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise it will explode at some point, and it will probably explode at a point where it's non-relevant for the situation where it happens. So that can be a way of avoiding what I say unnecessary arguments, because the argument, for example, with the as before with the butter, that was not about the butter at all. That
Mm-hmm.
was a small irritation. It was not something who could build up an argument, but there was a lot of other things who just needed to be vented out in that situation, and then it come into that stupid argument with the butter.
Right. So, exactly. I feel like that is very true. Like find someone that you can let it out to. So it's not, you don't have to communicate everything with your partner. You don't believe that you
No,
should communicate everything with your
no,
partner. Okay. Okay.
no, I
I've heard
don't
that
believe.
from other people too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you also need to vent about your partner sometimes, and do that with a close friend or someone else where you feel you have the space to vent. Because
Hmm.
yeah, being with a partner, you do live together. In most cases, you are a very much together all the time, and there will be things that irritate you when you are together with the same person day in and day out. And perhaps they are not that big, but they can grow big if you don't sometimes just get the option of venting out to someone. And then when you have done it, it's gone. It doesn't matter anymore.
So is do you find that women can do that easier than men, like finding that other person to vent to?
I will say I think it depends on what your personality type is, because I
Mm,
also know men who do it very well to their friends. Uh,
mm-hmm.
so I will not say that it is only a thing women does. I think um, perhaps women sometimes can encourage each other to do it.
Mm,
So it can be a little
definitely.
bit of what is on your mind, and let us hear what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say I also have male friends who are very good in doing it. So I think if you find the right environment for you to do it in, it will come as a natural thing.
Ah, okay. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, in your opinion, what are some of the common causes of misunderstandings between couples?
I will say the biggest cause I see that is assumptions,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and especially in couples, because they will often have been together for some time, and you assume you know the other person. And one of the things I like to ask couples when I have them, when I see the assumption, is, are you the same person you were 5 years ago? And most people will say, no, I'm not. I have developed, I have experience, and a lot of other things who have influenced me. And then the next question is, okay, do you expect your partner to be the same person as they were 5 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And most people, when they see it that way, they will say, oh, no, I don't. But we a little bit forget that in people we are in close relationships, and it's not only our partner, it can also be our parents, it can be our siblings, it can be old friends, that we are good in seeing our own development, because that we know when we have changed our mind, our point of view and things like that. But we don't always see it in those who are close to us, and especially if we are not asking question. So instead of assuming something, then ask and hear what the answer is. Um, so instead of assuming that your partner doesn't like skiing holidays because they said that 10 years ago, then say, hey, how do you feel about a ski holiday?
Right, right. And so, man, I guess that's removing do I want to say fear? Is it removing a fear of, like, you know, you being at you asking your partner instead of just assuming things? Like, is it a fear that's blocking you, like, just flat out repeatedly? Or what am I trying to say? Is it a fear that's like blocking people from, like, asking these types of questions rather than assuming? Or what else could it be that makes
It
people
is
assume rather than asking these clear questions?
it is basically that our brain are lazy.
Ah,
It
okay.
it try to find all the connection and all the assumption it can do, so then it doesn't have to work too hard. So
Okay.
so we all assume, what do you say, no matter how aware you are, you will still during the day make assumptions. But
Mm,
just having the awareness of, hey, some of your thoughts can be caused by an assumption, make it easier to ask. um, and normally say, if you get what you would say, if you get surprised by someone's reaction, to what you are saying or doing, then you made an assumption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that is a good indicator of when have you made an assumption, if you get surprised about their reaction to either what you are saying or doing, because then your brain have already played a movie of how it should have been.
Right, right. Exactly. It's funny, our brains are just lazy.
Yes, they are. They are very lazy.
Are there any other like common themes that you find amongst couples that cause miscommunication? I see assumption is a big one. Is there any other ones?
Also, one I see, and that is especially what you say with couples who have been together for longer times,
Hmm.
that they forget why they chose each other.
Yeah.
Being in a relationship, that is a choice, and it is an active choice, but it is also, in my opinion, a choice you need to reinforce from time to time. So doing a small exercise of saying, just write down what was it I felt in love with my partner. So just thinking back and see what was it back then who made me fall in love with my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm splitting them up to two. We are looking on the personality, and we're also looking at the physical. So it can be that they had a very cute butt. That is a valid reason for falling in love with someone.
Right.
Yeah. And that perhaps make you have an extra look the next time they go around and see if that cute butt is still there, and that brings up happy memories that make it float with those in the phones you have when you were in love. They come up to the surface again, make you more relaxed, makes good memories, and
Mhm.
suddenly you start to see all the other small things that make you two a couple together and make you a strong couple together.
Right, right. Yeah, I can see how that would be a good exercise to do and how important that is because like when you are in a relationship with someone for a long time, you are going to go through a lot of challenges and issues are going to come up, arguments and
Mm,
misunderstandings and, you know, things you shouldn't have said or didn't mean or whatever. And it may put like a stain
mm,
on the relationship, but I think that's a good exercise to do if you're feeling like why did I pick this person to begin with?
mm,
If you really want to work the relationship out and you feel like it's just small things that's building up to these bigger issues, looking at why did I fall in love in the first place? What did I love about this person to begin with? You know, that's something I do a lot just mentally, it'll just come up just
mm.
randomly
Yes.
while I'm thinking like, oh man, when we first met, it was this and it was that and then the feeling, like you said, it like
Mm,
brings those endorphins and then it's like, oh, I want to be around them again. I want to
exactly.
talk
Yeah.
to them. I miss them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing I also see quite often in couples is when you are two together, you need to make compromise. Uh, you can't get everything your way. That is just how
Yeah.
it is to be in a relationship. Um, and one of, I think, the most important things is when you make a compromise, be happy with the compromise. This is not
Mm,
a deal, it's not a bargain, it's not something you keep a score on. You
mm,
find what you say, the golden middle road where you both are happy, and then you let it go. Because
mm,
if you keep it in your mind as a score, I did that, then you're not happy with the compromise, and it starts to build up inside of you, and you see other things you are not happy with. And also, if you make it a bargain, if I do this for you, then you do this for me, then you end in a relationship where what you want to achieve is a bargain between you, instead of you are working together to what you want to achieve as as a couple goals.
Mm, mm. That's a really good perspective. I didn't look at it that way. When I look at things like, oh man, well, I did this for you, it kind of brings up those feelings of like unfulfillment, I think is the word I'm looking
Yeah,
for. Like, well, I'm not getting what I want, but I did this for you, and then it kind of makes you look at your partner a certain type of way, like maybe a little resentful that they're getting what they want, but you're not.
exactly. Yeah. And
Mm,
also, if you have hard with a compromise, or thinking of why you made the feeling it was a wrong compromise, then I say try to think about why you make the compromise. So why was it important for you to make this compromise? So not why did my partner want this compromise? No, look into yourself of why did you make this compromise? Because knowing why you did it is also makes it easier to let go of that nagging feeling that can be regarding the compromise. um, and also sometimes you need to accept that something you thought were a compromise perhaps need to be taken up to negotiate again, or you need to talk about it again because you are not happy with the solution. So don't think as a compromise as now I have made the compromise and then things is done. Um, because you will not know before you lift the compromise if you are really happy with it. So instead of going and building up that nagging feeling, then take your like grab your partner and say, hey, I feel regarding this that I'm not happy. I'm feeling that I'm letting go of one of my values here. Um, can we find another way that works for both of us?
I like that. That makes me think of like not feeling like the victim, not going
Mm-hmm.
into that like victim mode that, this is the end or I have no choice but to make this compromise and I'm not happy and there's nothing I can do about it. But like keeping some of well not keeping, but like realizing you still have power and choice. Like you still have a choice
Mm,
to agree to the compromise. You still have a choice to renegotiate the compromise. And you have a choice to be like, no, that doesn't work for me. Can we do something else?
mm,
Right.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it also comes a little bit to one of the things I also think that is important to remember when you are in a relationship. It's very often become us, and also especially when there comes kids, then we become an us. But you are a person, and you do have your needs. So if you don't speak your needs, how can you get them fulfilled? So no
exactly.
one can read your mind. So, and I think we most of us are very happy about no one can read our minds.
Uh-huh.
But that also means that you need to stop expecting your partner to read your mind. You need to talk
Exactly.
out that this is my need, this is what I would like, and this is important to me.
Mm, I like that. I think that's very good, very sound advice
Mm,
on how you can work together. So that's the best way to work together is to um like you said, communicate what it is that you need so that other people know and they can work with
mm,
you in order to get those needs fulfilled. And it's going to take compromise and the compromise may not be that one time. It may take a few tries for you both
mm,
to be like, this compromise is going to work for the both of us. But it, like you said, it's important to be happy with that choice and
mm.
realize it's a choice and be happy with that choice and then be able to let it go.
Yeah, and what you say, a very simple example of asking your needs. My partner travels quite a lot for work, and so do I also sometimes. And I said already in the beginning of our relationship, when we are not together because we travel for work, I do need you or us together to text good morning and good night, because
Mm,
that makes me feel connected, even though we are in different countries.
mm,
And he was a little bit in the beginning like, oh, why is that, but now he also like was saying, okay, he enjoys our text in the morning and the evening, just that one of saying, hey, you are still in my mind even though we are not together. And of
mm,
course it's not black and totally black and white if he doesn't text one evening because he have gone on a trip with the boys and I know they will be out all night, then it's okay. But just that little one of saying, hey, most days we do text to each other good morning and good night. That makes me feel connected. It is important for me to feel connected when you're not here.
mm,
Uh, that ended up being a little bit of our ritual together as a couple.
mm. Yeah, so cute.
Mm.
So, something that came up earlier today while I was listening to the radio, um, that I would like to get your viewpoint on, since you're making a lot of good points. Do you feel like when one person is telling their partner often what is an issue in the relationship and the partner isn't changing, what are like some possible causes of that, and then what can that couple do, or is there anything that they can do in order to change the dynamic and resolve that issue if one person is constantly um telling them, what's wrong, and the other person is making it seem like they just don't care and they're not going to change.
Mm. I will say the most important here, if you are in a relationship and if you are a couple, what is an issue for one of you is an issue for both of you. That you
Mm,
need to accept. So even though you perhaps doesn't feel this is an issue, you need to acknowledge that the other person does feel that it is an issue, and that
mhm,
means that you do need to work on it.
mhm, mhm,
And it will be sometimes that you can't find the common ground in this one, because if
mhm,
it's important to one person and it's not important at all to the other person, and the other person doesn't see the problem, then it can be very hard to find the common ground. And then you need to find out, how much does this influence our relationship?
mm,
Because if it influences your relationship so badly that it will influence the overall health of your relationship, you will need to find a solution on it. And it can also be, and that can be hard for someone to hear sometimes, that the person who feels it is an issue need to accept that another person doesn't feel that way.
mhm. And so that person should let it go.
Try to let it go, and that
Mhm,
can be very hard if you feel it is an issue. And I say
mhm,
it can go both way. It can also be that a person who doesn't feel it is an issue need to acknowledge that it is an issue for the other person, and they need to work on it. There isn't, what you say, a golden solution that is always this way,
mhm,
um, because sometimes one person will care about something another person doesn't care about, and
mhm,
they both need to acknowledge that one care and the other one doesn't care.
mhm. So there's no way to like change their mind and get them to do what we want.
What you can say, you can always state your reasons, and I will always say, take the talk about why it is an issue for you, but also listen to why it's not an issue for the other partner.
Mm,
So
okay.
I will always say, take the talk about it, just don't accept that is how things are. But sometimes the end of the talk discussion will end with you need to accept that that is how things are.
Mm.
And that
Okay.
can be very, very hard.
That's why I wanted to get your thoughts on that. It is hard, and that's something I've had to
Mm,
do with my husband. Is like doing that accepting thing. Like, is
mm.
it really, like you said, affecting the overall health of our relationship, or is it just me wanting to get my way? You
Yeah.
know?
And sometimes you will run into issues where it will break the relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It
none of
almost
us,
did.
yeah. So, and none of us go into a relationship with the wish of breaking, sorry, breaking a relationship. But it is where it ends sometimes. And that can also be a very hard decision to take, that hey, we do need to go our separate paths now.
Mhm.
um
Because we're not meeting each other's
yeah,
needs. Yeah.
exactly. Or
Mhm.
our values are so different that we
Mhm.
can't find a common ground. um
Mhm. Yeah.
but I will say, if you are in the situation where you're thinking, hey, can I stay here, or do I need to go, do get counseling on this one, get someone from outside to help you to look into this. Also because yeah, it can be so hard to see the options when you
Yeah.
are both very locked in to
Yeah.
your opinion.
Right. Right. When you're both in it. Yeah.
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 um and I don't know how it is in other countries. I know quite a lot of countries in Europe do offer free marriage counseling to couples who are thinking about getting a divorce.
Mm.
Um, so there is option. There can also be option if you have a voluntary center. There can be option at a church. There is different places where there is option to get the counseling if you don't have the money to pay for it.
Right. Right. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So where can people find you to work with you on this issue, on these issues?
Yes, I will say the easiest way to find me is through my website, and that is hilbrans.coach. So
Mhm.
last name dot coach, and there is all the contact information. There is also link to my social medias and so on. There will also be when I have workshops, you can see them there.
Mhm.
So everything is a little bit centered around my website. I think it's the easiest way for people to come in contact with me.
Right.
And I do am in the lucky situation that I have a quite unique name. So if you Google Daisy Hilbrands, it will show up. Uh, so that is one of the advantages of having a name no one can spell.
I definitely understand. People have the hardest time with my first name. Always have. So, yeah,
Yeah,
but like you say, when you switch it to a positive, that means that you'll always find me when you Google me.
exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us. I really appreciate you. And I really enjoyed this discussion and this interview because this is something I always think about and I loved getting your opinion and your thoughts on these different areas. I thought they were really good and insightful, really helpful too, and like things you could put into practice that could actually help and work, as long
Mm.
as, like you said, you're doing the work in between,
Yes.
and keeping at it and stuff. So very good, very good. You did a very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. And like I said, with the tools, you can also use them yourself, and your listener, you can use them without having a coach or a therapist over. It is also self-assessment tools in having the good conversation with your partner.
Mm,
One of the other things I also highly recommend for couples who are curious and want to have the conversation going is to buy one of those deck with couples questions. because
Mm.
they are a very good conversation opener. You get to talk about things that is normally not on your mind, and you get
Mm-hmm.
to know each other a little bit more again. Because in at the beginning of a relationship, we are all curious. We ask a lot of questions, and we forget it a little bit along the way. So they can be a great helping tools in starting to ask those questions again.
Let me get some of those.
You can find them on Amazon, or Google couples questions or couples question deck.
Mhm.
Better Life have made, but there's a lot of different producers who are making these, and I love them. I have a collection around 10 or 15 of them because I just love
Oh,
love going through them and getting new perspective.
right. I'm gonna have to. I think I did. Oh my goodness, I forgot. I bought a deck. I bought a deck. I tried to use it one time, and my husband is so funny. He was like, "These questions are weird." Point. They're supposed to get you, thinking and stuff, but I'm gonna have to pull that out again and try to use it again because I felt the same way. Like let's try to talk about some different things that doesn't relate to the children or doesn't relate to an argument we just had or something
Mm.
like that. Something that we're not thinking of and that can get the wheels turning and seeing what each other is thinking. So I yeah, definitely couples relationship cards. Is that
Yeah,
what they're called?
relationships are a question. The deck or relationship question cards will get you to somewhere. And I also on my website, if you go on under tools, there is
Hmm.
also a template, a PDF you can download and just cut out, and then you have a deck.
Okay, so there's something on your website too. Like you got
Yes.
questions for couples as well. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Good. So yes, all of this information, her website is going to be in the show notes. So make sure that you click the description box in order to read that and visit her website to get the couples questions, to book a consultation with her if you feel like you're struggling in these areas and she could really help you with that. And also to follow her on social media, see what she has going on, what she's up to, and stay up to date on everything she has going on. So all of that information will be in the show notes below. So make sure you click the description box and make sure you're following us on social media, visiting the website for more information. And did you want to close out with any type of message for the couples out there who maybe feeling like, oh, I'm just struggling right now. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to reconnect back with my partner. Is
Yeah.
would you
Mm.
what message would you have for that couple?
I will say, find your curiosity again.
Mm,
Be curious about each other again, because that will make you connect, like we talked about in the beginning, to what you felt for in the beginning. You are so curious about each other when you just meet, and that goes away. Unfortunately, I will say, and just starting to be curious about each other again, that will do amazing things in your relationship. I promise.
thank you. Thank you. So I will talk to you guys soon. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and stay tuned for the next episode. And again, all of this information will be in the show notes. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.